My name is CJitsallGewd, and this week I have a very special guest for everybody. He is a multi-time world record holder in Pokemon Snap, the Pokemon Snap God, as some would call him. Not me, but some would call him. He is the Minish Cap Kid. I have collaborated on 4 videos with him. He's a personal friend, and he's been gracious enough to come on and give me some content. So, welcome to the program, Quo. How are you today?
Hello, I'm not doing too bad. How are you?
Oh, I'm living the dream one podcast at a time. Thank you for asking.
It's all you could ask for.
That's all you can do, really. And so, we got a great program today, and I want to get started. Let's just go cut through all the red tape. You know, who are you, Quo? Let the people know at home who you are.
So I'm Quo, obviously, the aforementioned. I started streaming and speedrunning when I was 19, which was a bit over 7 years ago. Although I was pretty much a viewer for about a year before that. List of games I've touched is pretty extensive. I've done Sonic games, Fire Emblem, Tony Hawk, but as CJ said, I'm most known for Minish Cap and Pokemon Snap. Outside of speedrunning, I'm still in school. I'm working on my 2nd degree in computer science, and also I work part-time as a lifeguard and in IT for the federal government. Speedrunning is definitely my main hobby, but I also like swimming and rock climbing sometimes.
Rock climbing, well, I can see the correlation between, swimming and rock climbing and speedrunning, right? It's like
Clearly.
Personal goal. I'm saying personal goal,
Oh, from that aspect, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So they're both very solitary sports, right? You might be on a swim team, but
No.
you are really racing out. You're just out there with yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of people that I've met that are speedrunners have told me that they either swim or play tennis in high school, and I find that to be very telling.
Tennis, out of all things.
Well, I mean, it's a sport you can play by yourself, right?
I guess, yeah.
So, you did touch on a few games there. I did want to kind of circle around. You are doing... recently, I saw you've been doing Tony Hawk Underground.
Yes.
Before that, you were doing a good bout of Hello Kitty Cruisers.
Right. That Hello Kitty and Sanrio Friends Racing. It's a different game.
I do apologize. I didn't mean to get the name of your game wrong.
Right. Of course.
But you do other kart racers. You've done Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Mario Kart 64.
Yep.
You're smart to stay away from Double Dash. Don't ever
100%.
avoid that narcotic.
Against it, actually.
Yes.
Time trials are cool. Not full gear runs.
The time trials of Double Dash are very interesting and competitive, but the All Cups or the All Tours category is a punishment that no man or woman should have to endure. It's a very punishing category. You mentioned Sonic. I actually don't know what Sonic... I guess my best guess would be Sonic Adventure Battle 2, maybe?
Close. Sonic's Adventure DX, the one that came right before that one.
Yes.
That was a while ago, though. That was in 2015. I got top 15 in my prime, but I think I'm 90 something right now. Although they did do the whole in-game time thing, so my time got pushed down a lot. But yeah.
If only we could go back and retime your run with in-game time.
If only. Unfortunately, it's
a true miscarriage of leaderboard justice, indeed. Fire Emblem, was it Path of Radiance or it's not that one, but
yeah, I've done Path of Radiance. I'm
3 Houses.
2 people that have gotten sub 2 in that game, which is pretty cool. I've done 3 houses, yeah. Golden Deer. I might look into another house, but we'll see about that. I also had the record for Fire Emblem Awakening for about a month before a Japanese runner toasted me in that game.
Wow. So we're going to get to Minish Cap and Snap in a little bit, but out of all of those, I mean, it's a pretty long list. It's a pretty long list of games. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, what is it, the Robo Arena game for the DS?
Custom Robo Arena for the DS.
Custom Robo Arena for the DS. I've memed about it in 2 videos that SpeedDocs made.
I know.
For those of you that are unaware, I am the editor for Speed Docs, and my passive way of getting jokes across is sometimes I put little jokes that only one or two people are going to understand in the video. I hide them like little Easter eggs, and I've memed on Quo in 2 videos.
Only two.
Well, multiple, but you only appear prominently in 2.
That's fair. That's fair.
I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on, this is a very wide palette of games that you're playing. What is it about all these games? Is it just nostalgia for you, or is there a link between these? Or, I mean, just mechanically speaking, they're all. I mean, one is a Sonic game, and the other is a kart sim, and a skateboarding game, and an RTS, a camera game, and one of the worst selling 2D games for the Game Boy Advance. So I'm curious, like, what is the glue that binds these all together for you?
It's just games that I've found fun in the past. If I like a game, I'll at least dabble in it. I'll see if it's fun. If I find it fun, I'll push for a time. If I find it really fun, I'll actually competitively push for a time and try to get either a top leaderboard placement or, for some games, the record, but not super often. Obviously, my time is not illimited.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, no one's time is, right. Finite time is a very finite resource.
Yeah.
But you still did devote a week of your life to Hello Kitty and Sanrio Friends Racing.
I did. I do not regret it one bit. Unironically, not a bad game.
You've said this a few times. For the people at home, please explain why it is unironically a good game. Not a bad game.
Oh, the controls? Yeah, the controls are actually not as trash as other, I'm going to say, kart racers of that genre, as in the sort of shovelware. What's the word I'm looking for? They just throw a mascot in the game and hope it works, sort of like Garfield Kart.
Oh, the Garfield Kart Furious Racing. Yes, of course.
Yeah, right. The mechanics in this game are actually not bad, and it has a mission mode, which is pretty cool. So, it's a good mix to make a not terrible video game.
That's all you can really ask for.
Exactly.
You touched on this a bit a minute ago. I kind of wanted to circle back to this. What is an example of a game that you enjoyed, but that makes for a good casual experience, but you didn't like the speedrun for it? Do you have a recent example?
I mean, I'm sure I'll talk about this later, but my favorite game is Majora's Mask. But because of a couple of things, namely the first cycle, I've never really bothered running it. I did one run back in 2017, but quit there because the first 20 minutes was just too much for me. But yeah, all-time favorite game, but I'm not at all interested in speedrunning it.
Well, there you go. I know that you said that these are games that you would enjoy playing, at least casually, to some degree. So I kind of wanted to see where the line was,
Yeah.
Let's go back a little bit. We're talking about games you played recently, games that you played that you speedrun. Let's go back a little bit farther to Kid Quo. Little baby boy Quo bouncing around in the great wilds of Canada.
Right.
What games did you play when you were a kid?
Yeah, so my first game ever was Mario Kart 64 on the Nintendo 64, obviously. And I definitely grew up on everything Nintendo. I spoke about Zelda a bit. I've been a big fan of Zelda since Ocarina of Time and Pokemon since Generation 1. And then my all-time favorite game was Majora's Mask. I didn't actually own the game when it came out, but I got the GameCube version when the collector's edition came out. And even though a lot of people don't like that version because it tends to crash a lot, it was still the first time I owned that game, and I do love it. And those are also pretty much the games I started dabbling first in speedrunning. So there was Ocarina of Time, Mario Kart 64, Pokemon Blue, and Minish Cap were my first more serious speedruns.
Pokemon Blue? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Did it for a couple of months, actually. Again, this was way, way back when I started. But I did a category that actually doesn't exist anymore. It was any % single segment.
Interesting. So at the time they were doing segmented runs. Was it segmented a category?
No, because they were still going by in-game time at that point.
Uh-huh.
So for I guess they didn't consider segmented runs, or what's the word I'm thinking of? RTA runs is what they weren't really thinking of. They were more like on the in-game time.
Okay.
So save and quits were banned. So any percent single segment was the glitch category of that time. So you would take, what did we take? I think we took Squirtle. You would do Brock, go through Mount Moon, and then from there you would basically glitch a bunch of stuff and go to the credits. Now it's evolved into any percent no save corruption, which is like 25 minutes, but back in the day it was like 55 minutes. So
Oh, wow.
it's a pretty cool category.
So definitely an obsoleted run.
100%.
I think you've been around long enough to see you've definitely been around long enough to see that happen, like to see major changes in a speed game kind of curtail or just outright obsolete a run in a way that I don't think a lot of people got experience with that until Ocarina of Time kind of got the doors blown off it with Ace and SRM.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't around for the first time that happened, or the first, put first in quotation marks because it's happened a bunch of times in Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
But I wasn't around when Ganondorf or the Deku Tree Wrong Warp was discovered, but I came in like right after there.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw sort of the development of that up until ZFG had the record with a 2145, I think.
Wow. Remembers the times. You know, it's funny. I know someone, we know them, Andrew, who plays Ocarina of Time, was very
He's a mensch.
he's a mention. He's a friend of the show. Hi, Andrew. He just recently came back to streaming. Before that, he was a, I would say, competitive runner.
He had a top 20 time, I think, or was it top 10? He was definitely up there.
Lake and Andrew were pretty good, high up on the list, I think. And you know, Andrew was really competitive in any percent, like Quo said, like a top 10, top 20 time. And I don't know if it was because of everything that happened with Ace and it kind of killed any percent, or if it just kind of coincidental. But he took an extended break from speedrunning right around that time and didn't come back right away. And now when he's back, whether he did it because of this stuff or not, the larger point is he's back now and he doesn't run any percent anymore. He runs Defeat Ganon.
Yeah, which is the same route as the old any percent before Ace.
Yeah. So
I mean, if you like the route, if you like the category, like you're not limited to whatever the fastest category is, right?
This is true. I think that some people lose this in their pursuit of leaderboard gold. You know, you can basically run whatever is the most fun category to run. Don't feel pressured to run the main category. If you're chasing records, chase records. Fine. I mean, far be it from two guys on a podcast to tell you how to live your life. Personally, I like games that kind of let you play the game, you know? I think ZFG said that the reason he didn't play any percent for a very long time was because it cut out too much of the game. He liked playing the game. That was a motivator for running 100%. So,
yeah, it's a fair sentiment.
Yeah. But let's stop talking about ZFG. Let's keep talking about you, Quo. This is a show about you, after all.
Well, we just started talking about ZFG.
Well, you know, it's a short aside into a spirited segue, as we in the biz call it. So we talked about, you know, your early influences. What appeals to you? What is the biggest appeal to speedrunning for you? I mean, we briefly mentioned earlier about your ties to swimming and rock climbing as they're very solitary sports, right?
Yeah.
So what is it that kind of, what is the allure? What is the draw for speedrunning to you?
Yeah. So obviously, you know, replaying my favorite game is always, or my favorite games rather, is always fun. But it's definitely the competitive aspect and the community around the games that are both things that like really appeal to me. So it's not a coincidence that I do solo sports. Actually, I've always hated team-based activities, either in games or in sports. Like I hated volleyball, I hated basketball and soccer. But I always liked solo sports, and I've always been motivated by competition. So that really, you know, gets me going in whatever goals I try to set. So whenever I set goals and I push for them, it's really easy, you know, to relate that back to speedrunning, where my goal can either be to beat myself or to beat someone else, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that keeps speedrunning interesting. So the whole competitive aspect in that sense. And yeah, the other big aspect is the community around it, or around each specific games, actually. And yeah, just talking and playing with, like-minded people who also like the same games that I like is really a pleasure. And I've made a lot of friends throughout the years. So that's really something that brings me back a lot.
Right. I mean, community is obviously such a big and vital part of speedrunning now. It's definitely a major staying point. I mean, I don't really speedrun actively anymore. I started speedrunning to have something to do while I streamed. It's such a weird backwards way of thinking that kind of is. I kind of just wanted something to do and just be able to talk to my friends while I did it. You
Yeah.
know, so it's almost like speedrunning's always been a secondary thing for me, but the Snap community has been like a major reason that I'm still around. I mean, speed docs notwithstanding. I mean, the people that I've met from Pokemon Snap have definitely been like such as yourself,
Yeah.
have definitely been really, really special and important to me. So going from that, I totally understand you hate team-based sports.
I'm sure I'm not the only one that has that sentiment.
I've talked to a lot of people that are speedrunners that kind of echo the sentiment of they don't like the idea that someone else can let them down.
Oh, I missed the opposite. Just don't want to let anyone else down.
Well, that's the inverse, right? So it's like it's not too far off. It's like
Yeah, exactly.
my boss is
It's the same thing.
boss's kid is like that. He's like he does wrestling and tennis and all these other sports because he's like I trust me to get the job done, but I don't trust anybody else, right?
Yeah.
I mean, listen, that kid does him, right?
How old is this kid?
Oh, 12, 13.
What a baller.
Listen, he's no slouch, man. He's no slouch. I'll tell you more about him later. I won't talk about my boss's children on the air.
That's fair.
I mean, we talked about this briefly with Andrew, just in terms of how speedrunning has changed. How much has it changed since you first started? You started, 7 years ago? 2013?
2013.
Yeah. So what was speedrunning like in 2013 versus what it is now? Well, what are the key differences?
Yeah. So I think the overall environment is definitely different. So a common sentiment that a lot of older people have is a lot changed when races became less popular. Since the focus is a lot more on like personal achievements instead of more casual fun. But back in the day, races and bingos were really a highlight of me when I was just getting started, and they also introduced me to a lot of awesome people. Yeah, so I think nowadays, thanks to Discord and speedrun.com, everything is a lot more accessible to newer players. They can find resources and talk to people a lot easier than you could back in the day when you had to be on IRC, which wasn't super user friendly. But the barrier of entry is a lot higher since, over the years, people's times have also gotten a lot better. So you'll see a bit more often people joining for like a week and then they quit a lot more often than we used to. But for the ones who do stick around, even if they're not super great at games or at the runs yet anyways, they still have fun with it. And I think that's pretty important.
Yeah. You were talking about races. Something that Cece and I were kind of researching, I came to speedrunning way later. How important races were. It was almost like a generational gap. There was a group of speedrunners that kind of cut their teeth on doing races on SRL. And they didn't care what they raced. It's like, well, what else were you guys racing? Oh, we were doing this game, but we were also doing Mario. It's like, did you speed? Nah, we didn't, but we just said, fuck it. We'll just speedrun Super Mario 64. We'll do 35 star. We'll do, well, I don't know what a meme category back then. There was a few, like do Womps 8 or something,
Yeah, sounds
Womps
about right.
9. So, and then I guess, which do you prefer? Do you prefer that the barrier of entry for speedrunning is lower at the expense that there's less emphasis on racing, or do you kind of miss the way that it used to be?
I mean, I definitely miss racing. Going back, maybe right now I wouldn't do it as much since my free time is not as prevalent as it once was. But I did meet a lot of really cool people that way that I wouldn't have otherwise met because either we didn't overlap in any games or like we just wouldn't talk otherwise, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think in that sense it's sort of a shame. But right now, as it stands, I think for newer people to get in, it's probably better now than it once was. So it is a bit bittersweet, but I think it's a bit for the best.
I'm looking at your SRL stats. Let's see. Let's go to the first race. Oh, you did some Ocarina of Time races. Interesting.
Yep. Yeah, I did a lot of bingos.
You DNF'd in a lot of Ocarina of Time races.
No, what? No, I didn't.
I'm joking. Yes.
I forfeited 3 times.
You did forfeit 3 times.
No, sorry. Okay, 7 total,
times.
3 in Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, exactly.
7 out of 250 races. That's not bad.
That is not bad. You're correct. A lot of Ocarina of Time, a lot of Majora's Mask, a lot of Mario Kart 64. So it kind of seems like you're, as you kind of, like, these were your first speed games, right? It kind of feels like as you got further and further away from these, you know, you stopped racing as much. Or those communities, was it that those communities didn't race as much?
There was definitely a while where there was just like a downfall of races, and Saturday Night Bingo, for example, was huge back when I started. Well, let me just pull. Yeah, like 25, 30 people races sort of thing, and nowadays it's like the same 10 people every week sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it was definitely big for a long time. Same thing with Majora's Mask. I didn't actually do races per se. It was pretty much exclusively bingos.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was something else that nowadays if I check when the last time a Majora's Mask bingo was, I don't think I would find more than 4 or 5 people on that in that race.
Man, it's crazy to see. The last race you did was an 8% race for Snap. It was a 21:38. Last race on SRC, I should say. Sorry, SRL.
SRL.
Excuse me.
Yeah, the last Snap race. Yeah, Snap didn't really lend itself well to racing, unfortunately.
Well, if nothing else, you both didn't get closer, right?
There you go.
Oh my goodness. Quo, are you having a good time so far?
I'm having a blast.
That's great to hear, man.
It's been chilling.
God, I have so many questions I want to ask you.
That's what I'm here for.
I know, man, I know. Alright, I'm going to be frank. We're going to go off script here a little bit.
Oh, no.
Why Minish Cap, man? That game doesn't seem like it got interesting until way later. Why did you start speedrunning Minish Cap? Don't tell me it's because you played it as a kid. Why? Really?
That was... if you don't want me to tell you that, sure, but then the conversation is going to be pretty short.
Fine, then go ahead and tell me it's because you played it as a kid. I already know that.
It's pretty much because I played it as a kid.
You already had the game.
Yes, but I didn't have a way to capture it, so I was on emulator for a while. But yeah, out of all the I guess Zelda game, the handheld Zelda games, I guess that I played, that one was the one that stuck with me the most.
Mm-hmm.
I did really like the Oracle games, but they didn't. I guess this one had more of an impact. I had more fun with it. Yeah. So actually, back to racing. I got into Minish Cap because there was a blind race for the first element, and I'm like, wow, I haven't played this game in whatever. When was this? 2013. Let's say 8 years, something like that. 2005. Sure. I hadn't played this game in 8 years. I wonder if I still remember it. So I did, and it was fun. And I'm like, cool. I'll see if there's a community. And I joined the community, and there were some cool people, and it sort of just went from there.
Nice. See, that's a much more substantive answer.
Sometimes I try.
Substantive. It's a much more substantive answer.
Substantive? No.
Substantive.
Is that a word?
That
doesn't sound like a word.
Listen, you're gonna call me out on my show.
Yeah.
Substantive, adjective, having a firm basis in reality and therefore important, meaningful, and considerable. Like me, I'm substantive. You know what you are? You're milquetoast.
Damn. All right. Apparently the Google speech thing is agreeing with you, so I have no say.
Did you Google speech me?
Yeah.
I'm so offended.
Listen.
All right, let's cut the Minish Cap.
Ouch.
Let's talk about Pokemon Snap. Tell me on Snap it's a speed game.
Yeah. So you'd be surprised by how many people actually give me funny looks when I tell them I run Snap. So yeah, it is on Rails, and yeah, it's easy to beat. But my mentality, anyways, is a game that's easy to beat doesn't necessarily make it a bad run. So my comparison is the original Super Mario Bros., which is one of the most popular and most optimized speedruns out there. The game is essentially hold right, hold B, and sometimes jump. Now, obviously, there's a lot more to it than that, but Snap is sort of the same way. So yes, it's easy. You just look around and take pictures. But there is such a high bar for optimization that you have like zero room for error. So I'm obviously biased, but to me, Snap does have a lot of depth to it that makes it an interesting run, since you also need to balance both the points factor and the speeds factor to get a good run. And I haven't quite found another run that's really like it, so it's really unique in that aspect for me. Also, it's a fun game.
Yeah, I met you through Snap.
That's true.
It was a little late. You weren't super active when I joined, but
I come and go.
You do come and go. I didn't know you outside of that, and my only other the only other rabbi I had in the community was CC. So to put it kind of bluntly, it's like if you weren't in that, if I wasn't in that Discord and I didn't see you, the only other person that I could ask who was active was CC. And at the time, the only other person really running it was Lemon, our friend Calcium Lemon, and Levon was probably the only other two people running it. I watched Lemon grind for a sub 21, grind, and grind and grind, and then he finally got it. It was like the definition of watching someone like die from 1,000 cuts. It was like watching him turn rocks into littler rocks and littler rocks until he had nothing left. And then finally he did it.
I mean, his approach isn't the best. You know, he'd always like have like one or two beers during his streams, so like that could have played into it.
Are you calling him? What are you calling him? A guy that likes to drink beer on stream?
Well, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but like, if that's part of the grind.
Oh man, are you looking forward to the new Pokemon Snap?
I am. I will definitely pour a lot of time into it.
Are you? Is that casually or from a speedrun perspective that you're gonna pour time?
Definitely casually. I'll probably try speedrunning it, but if it's a game that doesn't lend itself well to speedrunning, it's, I'll move on. It's nothing more than that.
Are you?
I'll try though.
Are you?
Oh yeah. I'll definitely try though, just because of my history with Snap. But yeah, again, if it's not an interesting run, then that's that.
Do you feel any sort of ownership over the game? Like this is like your game, you know?
Not really. No.
Do you have that with any game?
No.
Okay.
Do you want me to add more to that?
Yes, if you could expound on that just a smidgen, that'd be...
Expound. Yeah, I don't know. It's like, for every game, like, yeah, you have the person who's, like, the fastest, but it's not like they're the only one contributing to the game. There's the whole community backing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, most of the stuff that's happened wasn't found by me. So I feel bad for taking credit for a lot of work that other people have done, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, I've found stuff, both, in Snap and Minish Cap and whatever other game. But it's not my game because it wasn't just my effort put into it, sort of thing.
Would it be fair to say that you don't feel comfortable taking credit just because you're the one that's been able to execute on what other people have found the most? Would that be a fair judgment of your feeling?
I mean, there's definitely like, I did put the time and effort into getting the times that I've gotten, so there's definitely like some merit to that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I would just never say like it's my game, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. It's definitely interesting. Some people have this like alpha approach of like, this is my game. I won't say who or what game it was, but it was a very prominent speedrunner who said something to the effect of, if I ever lose my time in X category, I'm gonna drop everything, call out sick from work, and run this category because this is my record.
I get the sentiment. I don't blame him or her for that.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, okay, on the flip side, I did say I'm motivated by competition. Like I recently lost the Snap record, and I'm sort of itching to jump back into Snap. But even if I don't get the record back, like it's not that substantial to me, I guess. I'll try for it because competition, but I don't know. I wouldn't. It's not a throne that I'm going to sit on and claim, I guess.
Well, the last real barrier for Snap, not to make this an inside Snap podcast, but the last real barrier that even seems feasible, and it didn't seem possible 2 or 3 years ago, is sub 2030. That's like the last real barrier that seems, and it really
possible.
doesn't seem possible, but it's the only thing that's probable. You guys do have some of best that would theoretically be lower.
Yeah.
I think that Eric even golded on his Mew. I don't know how good of a gold that was to begin with, but
it's a pretty good gold.
In theory, you could perfect the Mew fight. We don't know what a theoretical sum of best really would be, like human limit, apart from what the community gold kind of bank is,
Yeah, and I don't think anyone's really trying to grind out runs to get the gold Mew fight, because that would take a lot of time. Mew doesn't play well.
Yeah.
But it's actually interesting you say that. So when was this? June 25th, so I guess a month ago now. A Japanese YouTuber contacted me, and he was making a video on Snap, and he wanted what did he want from me? He basically just wanted a small blurb from me, as well as Akufuku Koto, who are two Japanese Snap runners, and I think CC was also interviewed by this guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I told him that Snap is optimized to the point that I don't think saving 15 seconds is possible. 10 would be possible, but not 15. So we're definitely getting close to that. Maybe I'm wrong. If someone wants to prove me wrong, 100%. But to me, we're getting close to that theoretical limit, right?
Yeah, for sure. And for those listening at home that really don't know the history and don't know the game that well, let me just further illustrate this in your minds. Let me paint a really clear picture. The strategies that we used, that the community used when I started playing 3 years ago, they're not that different. There's no routing differences. There's some more lag reduction stuff that we found, like drifting to the right side of Valley. There's a couple little things, right? But there's no big skip. There's no glitches to speak of. You figured out that one weird thing with the analog stick that didn't do anything.
Zero effect on the run.
Zero effect on the run. So there's no meaningful glitch. There's nothing useful for sure, and it just all feels very moot. But then you see, the record when I started was a 2050, whether I knew it or not, and it's now like we're trying to knock on the door of 2030. So 20 seconds have kind of come off here, and it's very much like just optimization, just less mistakes and playing better and better and better and better. Will it ever get to the point where there's like a frame limit? Like you can't get a better time than this? I don't know.
It's interesting. I was actually this would probably have been like 2 years ago, but I was talking to someone about sort of that at one point, are we ever going to have a game that has a run that will never be beaten just because it's like the human limit and no one can beat it? Because at some point, there is going to be that run, right?
Right.
So it's just interesting to think how far will we have to push it to get there?
I think a very famous human example, probably the only human example that really exists in a not meme capacity is, the
Dragster?
Yeah, Dragster. I was thinking of Super Mario Brothers.
Oh, that one's still getting pushed down, though. It's by frames, but it's still getting pushed down.
Yeah, this was 2 years ago you had this conversation, How many more frame rules are there, The tricks just keep getting, progressively, crazier. Me and Lemon used to watch these SMB one runs together, and we would like DM each other while we were watching them. And we watched a world record together live, and he just DM'd me and said, "Just the one frame rule left, man." And then I think there was another trick, and then Cosmic got it like 2 in one night, and it was just like what, like crazy.
What?
It's like crazy how that happens, you know? It's like the only thing that people really need is to get through the wall. You know, there's something so powerful about that first person to do it. You know, like once someone does it once, then it's possible for everybody. Like Tony Hawk in the 900. Literally before Tony Hawk does the 900 at the X Games, no one had ever landed one. He does it, the next day people are doing them.
Yeah.
You know, maybe not to that extent, but now they knew it was possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's just like a huge mentality break. To go off topic a bit, not really. I was watching Jeremy Thompson probably like a while ago, a month ago or something, who's a Spyro runner. And he was grinding, I forget what time he was grinding, but it was in 100 eggs. And he was saying that like there's no barrier for him because in his mind, he already beat that time. He just needs to prove it, sort of thing. So I think the barrier definitely exists, but only if you think it does, if that makes sense.
Oh, it's definitely.
I found that really interesting from.
It's definitely
from
a
his point of
mental
view.
barrier for sure. It's kind of like mind over matter type thing, you know.
Yeah.
You kind of have to persevere, but.
And persevere you must.
We talked about a few of your world records so far. You know, custom Robo Arena, Pokemon Snap. You know,
right.
To mention
the important ones.
You know, Mario Party Island Tour.
Right.
You know, were you really that lucky, or did you cheat? You know, that's a joke exactly one other person's gonna get.
Yeah. The joke behind that is 3 years after I got the run, some guy showed up in the YouTube comments. This was like 2 weeks ago or something, probably last week. And he's like, "Did you get lucky or did you cheat?" No, I grinded that game for like a solid 2 weeks.
Anyone that listens to this, please go to that video on YouTube and comment, did you get lucky or did you cheat?
Yeah, Mario Party Island Tour, all boards in 5308. Just like YouTube that and you'll find it.
Well, why is it so lucky? How did you get so lucky?
So,
ask you how you got so lucky, like you bathed in 4-leaf clovers or something.
I actually wrote like a huge dissertation about it on Reddit because I was really bored one day. But one of the luckiest parts was the first map. To get it perfectly, you need to roll 3 5s because it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 instead of 1 through 6. And I got that, which is a 1 in 216 chance, I think. So like a 0.5% chance.
Yeah.
So that was lucky, and then the rest of the ground wasn't shit, and that game tends to just absolutely dissolve on itself when it doesn't like you. So I did get lucky. I'm not gonna lie.
Was that run luckier than your Pokemon Stadium PB? Because that actually had the chance to be the world record and going into the final split.
Yeah, yeah, that was a crazy run. No, definitely Stadium was a bit luckier, just because Thunder is a move that misses a lot, and mine didn't miss a lot.
You had like 1 in 35 Thunders miss or something. It was some crazy number. Like you were like, oh, if this hits, then it's crazy, but it's probably gonna miss.
Yeah.
You just got hit after hit after hit.
Yeah, and the funny part is, the one time I missed, it didn't matter because it was a 2-shot, but the next Thunder crit anyways, so it was still a 1-shot. So I didn't even lose time because of that.
You definitely had a few crits. You were like, this is a range, and then you'd get a crit, and you're like, never mind.
I mean, crits in Stadium are like a 1 in 4 chance, basically, so it's not that special or anything. It's not like the 6.25% we have now in Pokemon.
Right.
But yeah, definitely pretty lucky there.
I actually, my story about this is that I was in your stream. It was either that PB or the one right before it, because you had gotten 2 PBs in pretty quick succession. And I had been just making fun of you mercilessly in your chat to the point where you like DM'd Ika at one point. And
she DM'd me. Just saying.
All right, fair enough. You DM'd our friend Erica, and she DM'd you, as you tell it, and you revealed that I was being a little too hard on you, and she messaged me and told me that I should consider being nicer. which I considered and then disregarded. And
Unfortunately.
at the beginning of your run, I said to you, when this run dies, play the stadium minigames. And you said, okay. And then that run PB'd. So I had to wait 2 hours to watch you play all the stadium minigames.
Poor you.
I know. Well, congratulations on the PB. It's definitely more
Thank you.
interesting to watch than Mario Party Island Tour.
Yeah. Island Tour isn't fun.
You don't recommend it?
No.
You hear to hear, folks. The breaking news: Mario Party Island Tour not fun. Shuffles my papers.
The what's the minigame tower? I think is the mode. That one's pretty fun.
Is it?
All boards is not fun. It's pretty fun. Yeah.
You also have one of the very few recorded runs of that game.
Yeah, that's just because 3DS capture software is hard to get and expensive.
Didn't they make a lot of 3DSs? I feel like it was a big seller.
The 3DSs are, yeah, there are a lot of 3DSs. It's the capture, because like
You think that
you can't just plug it into a computer. You need to get it modded with a capture board, which costs like $250. So first of all, there's the price point. Second of all, there's the fact that like I think right now no one's actually producing capture boards, so you can't really get your hands on them right now.
Yeah, there was a few games that I follow that their leaderboard mods had to come out and say that we're temporarily allowing times up to a certain point with no video because they're not making any more boards.
Yeah,
it's a real shame, but you know, it is a limitation.
It is what it is. Yeah, the 3DS didn't really have anything like you know, the Game Boy Advance, for example, and Game Boy Color had the Game Boy Player. The DS has some games anyways on Virtual Console. 3DS doesn't have anything like that. So
Nintendo, if you're listening, this is your opportunity. Make a device that is a mini HDMI out so we don't have to fuck with this anymore. There you go. I solved the whole problem.
There you go. You solved the problem for a dead system.
I did, yes. I'm so keen. I'm so smart. I figured out a problem for a solution that no one was looking for. Figured out a solution
there you go.
for a problem that no one was looking to solve. Is there any? So we talked about a few of your records, like I was saying before. Do any of them stick out in your mind as being particularly special or memorable?
Records in general. Ooh, good question.
Maybe like, is there a peep? It's okay if it's just a personal best. You know, it stands out above the rest as opposed to like a world record. But
just by like scrolling through my games, I think Fire Emblem Awakening was one of the most. I don't know how to explain it. It was sort of like at the time no one was running. I think it was Indie Kenobi that had like a 38-minute time or something. And that run's really brutal because there's like a 3% chance you finish a run or something like that, just because of there's a barrier 10 minutes in that's like a 1 in 3 chance you actually pass it, and then there's a 50-50 right after then. And then there's the final boss, which sucks. So the run's hard to finish. But the game was stagnant for a really long time, and I actually pushed the record down by like almost 2 minutes. No, India had 37. Yeah, I pushed the record down by like almost 2 minutes. That was like one of the games that I sort of put a lot of time into and sort of changed the way people like sort of saw Fire Emblem Awakening anyways, as a run, just because I had ended up optimizing it so much at that point that when I actually finished a run, it was 2 minutes faster because it took a while for me to finish a run.
Wow, just dunked on your old splits, huh?
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow. Any other runs that come to your mind, or just Fire Emblem Awakening?
I mean, most of my snap runs, like none of them particularly jump out. It was more I executed everything that we had found at the time, or I had found something and executed that. Or in some cases, you know, someone else found something. I think one of my runs was the first one with Weepinbell's Night, for example, and executed that. But it wasn't like above and beyond what was expected at the time, I guess. Like, there's a bunch of good times, not gonna lie. But I guess, you know, none of them super jump out at me.
Okay. I mean, listen, you have an embarrassment of riches to choose from. I only have my one world record.
There you go.
And I don't even have it anymore, so.
Unfortunate.
Yeah. Shout out to Super Mario Party, the greatest speed game ever.
You heard it here first. The greatest speed game ever.
More breaking news. I said we weren't going to do a news podcast, and here we are, breaking all the news.
Breaking all the news.
What many people don't know about you is that you have experience. You have a pretty good deal of experience with marathons, both in running them. You ran Minish for sure. You ran Minish Cap at GDQ, and I was in the audience for that with Miku and the Hog.
Right.
That Hog got on stream was the best moment of that GDQ. Throwing that out there. That Hog with all of our names on it. And you planned ICAID, which was a small speedrunning charity marathon to benefit our friend Erica, who we mentioned earlier. And you also restream for NASA. You also are an integral part of Speedoxathon. So I guess my question for you is, what are some of the challenges of starting your own marathon? Because you basically were the main factor behind ICAID, the marathon portion of it at least. So what are some of the challenges that you encountered in that marathon and in other marathons that you've worked on?
Yeah. So if you're starting from scratch, there are a lot of things that will take a while that you like actually get the marathon on its feet. Mostly tech wise. Thankfully, I know a few guys that run NASA Marathon, as we mentioned. And they let me use their Restream machine and their RTMP server and a lot of other systems, which basically got like the biggest headache out of the way. So the number one thing is, if you know somebody that has all the stuff, just use their stuff. For the actual marathon planning, though, once all the equipment's out of the way, I think the most difficult thing is everything sort of leading up to the marathon. So you need to you prepare all your layouts, prepare all your scenes. You need to find and train your restreamers. If you're doing hosts, you need to train them as well. You need to advertise the marathon so you actually get submissions. There's probably a bunch of other stuff. You need to make a schedule, for example, and balance the schedule. That one's not super hard, though. But definitely something to consider. But if you do everything right, the actual marathon is the easy part, unless there are any tech errors, in which case it's the biggest headache. But if everything goes smoothly, the actual marathon is like the easy part. That being said, for the tech errors, if you prepared everything well enough and you know what you're using, you should be able to sort of tinker with something, at least to get things rolling again, because the show must go on, as they say.
What was the worst tech disaster that you've experienced?
I have two, actually. Do you want the on-site one or the off-site one first?
Oh, please. Let's go with the on-site one first.
Okay, so this was last NASA, so NASA 2019. Yeah, so I was supposed to be running Minish Cap after Pykin was doing I don't know how to explain it. It was a meme. He took an hour to play RuneScape, basically, was the gist of it. But
okay.
It's a long story, but basically there were four of them playing StarCraft while he was going to be, quote, playing RuneScape. But everyone plugged in their gaming laptops to the same power strip. Gaming laptops take a lot of energy.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So it sort of ended up killing the power in a room of the hotel, which is where a lot of our electricity was coming from.
Oh no!
And we had to call the hotel main. Well, I say we, the marathon organizers. I'm not actually affiliated with NASA. I just show up and speedrun there. But the marathon guys had to actually get the hotel people to check it out. Basically, they busted a breaker and they couldn't get electricity out of the one outlet anymore. So they had to get it from another room. It was not a good time. So his 1 hour run ended up being a 15-second run, which actually worked out well because his actual run scheduled was get a level in mining in RuneScape. So he just mined a thing and got a level. So his meme got destroyed, but his run didn't go over estimate, and he finished the run that he submitted, which is pretty impressive.
It is pretty impressive. It was, however, sounds like it was a pretty big meme. And
it was.
The meme the bubble on that thing got bust pretty quickly.
Sort of. The original meme died, but another one was created at the same time. So did they really lose?
A true phoenix, You know,
Yeah, there
a
you
real
go.
metaphor. Death and rebirth. All right.
Death and rebirth.
I mean, I don't have anything else to say. What was the biggest one offsite that you've encountered?
Yes, that was RPG Me, which is an action RPG marathon, also from NASA,
Ooh,
actually.
do I
Well,
know
from
this one?
NASA. You, uh, no, it's not the one you're thinking of, I think.
Oh, okay.
But Mash runs that one, and he's also someone who plays around at NASA a lot.
Shout out to
Cool.
Mash. Yeah.
Shout out to Mash.
A real mensch.
A real mensch. You're not wrong. But yeah, so it was. I forget which run it was, but it was after whatever run. Everything started just lagging a lot. So the way the marathon works is we remote into a PC, and that PC is running OBS just so we don't have to stop and start the stream every time a restreamer changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And things were going like really slow. Like you would click a button, it would take a couple of seconds to like actually process what it was doing. And we're like, okay, what's going on? And then everything froze and sort of died. So we had Rod, who was helping Mash sort of with the marathon. He's really good with tech. And he was checking stuff. And apparently the RAM for the computer, there was a memory leak somewhere. So like the RAM was just filled and the computer couldn't do anything. And we subsequently couldn't do anything because the PC remoting tool takes up memory, which the computer didn't have. So we couldn't really do anything about that.
Oh no.
And we were just like watching as like OBS was freezing, and I think there was probably an encoding overload as well. So the stream was like, luckily this was between runs. It ended up pushing the marathon a far bit behind, but it was just a very big fire.
And how long did it take to get solved? Like
45 minutes to an hour, I think.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
Man, you can't even. You literally couldn't even go on at that point.
No.
It was just
like their option was like killing the stream and then starting it from someone else's PC, but we didn't have the stream key because it's NASA's stream key. They're not just going to give it out, right? It was on their PC. So this was like 2 a.m. so everyone was asleep, so we couldn't really ask for them. Yeah, it was not a fun time. I'm just happy there were multiple of us awake.
Wow, is that?
Because that's not something I would like a single person to deal with.
That is a story. That is a whale of a problem. I definitely don't envy the people that are involved. But it got handled.
It got handled.
And it only went over. It only cost the marathon an hour. So there you go. Right.
There you go.
You just have someone suddenly drop an hour from their estimate. There you go. That's how you make up for it.
That's you go.
That's how it works, right?
There was a bit of a freak out on the restreamer side, but everything was handled.
And everyone handled it like a professional, and the problem was resolved.
More or less.
I commend you, humble restreamers of NASA. Please don't let my shit break.
There was stress, but at the end of the day, we got the marathon rolling, and that's what's important.
Have you ever encountered absolute shitters, like the worst kind of people to deal with during a marathon?
I mean, yes, but I don't think calling them by name is a good idea.
Oh, of course not.
I can still tell the story, I guess.
We'll edit out their name to protect them.
Right, to protect them.
The name and places have been changed to protect the identity of the innocent. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think, the worst one was somebody who, he was supposed to run a game, and because of his setup, he was supposed to run it a specific way, but ended up changing that specific. I'm leaving out details to not have it come back to me, but ended up changing the way that we had told him to set it up, like the morning of. So he basically was using a new install of OBS and didn't have anything set up, so we had to set that up. And then his sound was bugging because we spent all the time that we would have setting up his audio for setting up his OBS, which was supposed to be done before. And there was just a lot of problems with it. And at the end of it, or like when we were sort of nearing the end, he said, "I thought you guys had enough people to deal with this." And I was just sitting there, and I'm like, I didn't say anything, obviously. We're trying to be nice as restreamers.
You were very polite.
But I was on tilt at that point. I did not want to be nice to this person anymore.
And that's actually the same day that I met Friendship Cannon.
There you go.
Same day. You were mad, I was mad, and then everyone played Jackbox.
Yeah, just if you run for a marathon, respect the restreamers. It is a very thankless job.
Respect the pouch, man. Respect it.
There you go.
Let's wrap it up. What are your plans for the future? Do you have any plans?
Plans for the future. Not really. I haven't ever been someone who plans out what they do next. I'll run whatever the Magic 8 Ball tells me to run. Yeah, I've been like sort of crushing games because of the whole COVID-19 pandemic. I've done 9 games with somewhat competitive or very competitive times. But most of those runs I didn't really plan on doing, I guess. It just sort of, I felt like doing that game at that time. So planning, I'll keep on playing games, I guess. There's no real plan. I do need to get back to Snap and Minish Cap sometime in the near future. But between now and then, I'm sure I'll run a couple more games. So
set a goal right here and now. Let's set a goal for Snap and Minish Cap. What are you looking to get when you go back to Minish Cap?
Minish Cap, I want a 140. I think that's relatively easy for me to achieve.
What's your personal best?
I have a 142 right now, a high 142.
And this would be for any percent.
Yeah, any percent.
Of course.
Yeah, I'm not really gonna touch glitchless again, I think, unless something big happens, but it's glitchless, so I don't see what could happen.
Yeah, that is kind of a bitch, isn't it? It's like, oh wow, yeah, we run any percent, no major glitches. Is there gonna be any new developments? Not really.
Probably
it's
not.
No major glitches, right?
What's the point of the category?
Right.
Yeah.
What about a go for Snap? Are you gonna go take? First of all, are you gonna take the record back from Eric?
We'll see. I was thinking about it, and I think I want to go for the sub 2030 on N64. So we'll see if I get it. It does sound like a lot of grinding though, so I'm not set on that goal. That being said, I'm not like sold on getting the record, I guess. I just want sub 2030. So like if someone else gets a sub 2030 before me, and then I end up like getting a second place run, like I'd still be okay with that sort of thing. So I think sub 2030 is a goal in my near future.
Wow.
Hopefully.
Well, once your N64 gets repaired, you'll be back in action, right?
I will be. Yeah, just the capture. I have my N64 modded, and the capture sometimes looks a bit funky with the colors, so I want to get that fixed up.
Modded console. So cancel them.
Modded console. The only thing that changes is the output, but it looks nice.
Well, we'll have to get the scientists in the lab looking at that, because I'm unsure. It's a little sus if you ask me. But hey, Quo, I wanted to thank you for coming today and for talking with me for so long. We're going to be wrapping up here in a minute. Do you have any final thoughts?
Not off the top of my head.
Well, that means that we can just wrap up all that much more faster.
There you go.
I say that to people on conference calls all the time. Always gets a there you go or attaboy. There we go. All right.
Attaboy.
So if you like this podcast, you might consider liking the video or liking it on whatever podcast platform that you are listening to this on. If you want more...
It helps more than you'd think.
It helps more than you think. If you want to find more information, you can look on Twitter for Speedrun Insider. You can look to the other Twitter account for the other speedrun channel that I manage, Speed Docs, which is a collaboration I do with CC Neverender. You've heard CC's voice, now you can hear mine on this podcast, which we're hopefully going to put out weekly for the foreseeable future. Thank you for listening. Thank you for participating, Quo. And I hope you all have a great time, and we'll catch you next time on Speedrun Insider.
Ciao.